I've been a bad seed since childhood. I wanted a good life, so I stopped at nothing. At 8, I pushed my drunken father into the river and drowned him, then used his corpse to sell myself into servitude at the Marquis's gate, claiming I needed to bury him. Entering the Marquis's household at 13, I staged a scene where the head maid beat me half to death, only to be rescued by a passing young lady, becoming her personal maid. I thought that following my mistress into marriage would let me become the young master's concubine and enjoy a good life, but she had a secret affair with a poor scholar. The scholar sweet-talked her, tricking my mistress into eloping with me by her side. Seeing the lecherous look in the scholar's eyes as he scanned me, I sighed deeply. I really don't want to kill, but why won't they let me have a good life? When Steward Sun's men caught up, I had just finished disposing of the scholar's body and was inwardly despairing. I had planned to handle the elopement discreetly, but the household found out anyway. By the time I rushed back, my mistress was confronting Steward Sun, pressing a gold hairpin to her own throat, her eyes pleading yet stubborn. I'll go back with you, but don't harm my beloved Lou. At this moment, she was still thinking about her beloved. Steward Sun nodded in agreement, and the young lady weakly dropped her gold hairpin, looking as if her soul had been drained from her body. Despair and pain. On the carriage ride back, the young lady sobbed uncontrollably. I just want to be with the one I love. What did I do wrong? I sighed, not knowing how to comfort her. Miss, what's so good about young Master Lou? He's poor and a flirt. The young lady stared at me with red-rimmed eyes, her gaze filled with bitterness. He's different from others. I tucked the blood-stained corner of my clothes inward. He certainly is different. His blood is unusually foul. Lu Lang is the one who loves me the most. He said he wants to be with me, only me, for a lifetime. I rolled my eyes. Half an hour ago, that same Lu Lang was secretly holding me and whispering that he loved me most, his lecherous eyes staring at me with lust, saying he would marry the young lady and then take me as his concubine. Although Lu Lang comes from a humble background, he is full of knowledge and will surely achieve great things. The young lady, while extolling the scholar's virtues, was also condemning the stubbornness of the Marquis and his wife. I felt no empathy at all, only thinking that the Marquis and his wife had fed the young lady too well. It wasn't until we reached the Marquis's gate that she regained some composure. Grabbing my hand, her voice trembling, she said, "Shuangjiang, after we go back, if my mother beats you for this elopement, put all the blame on me." Despite being terrified, the young lady still tried to protect me. She was kind-hearted, just a little love-blind. The young lady might be willing to endure hardship, but I am not. So to prevent her from making a mistake, I had no choice but to kill that scholar surnamed Lu. I was born a bad seed, ruthless and merciless, stopping at nothing to achieve my goals. Before the age of 5, I was a little beggar on the streets, bullied by older beggars, fighting with stray dogs for food. Back then, I had only one thought: survive. At 6, I was taken in by an old monkey trainer. He told me to call him father, gave me food, bought me new clothes. I was grateful to finally have family, a home, until the old man made me strip naked in front of him, let him examine my body, touch me, kiss me. I ran away many times, but every time he caught me and beat me black and blue, shouting as he hit me, "I treat you so well. How dare you run? You women are born wanton. You don't deserve kindness." His face was twisted with rage, his voice hoarse and desperate. At that moment, I knew only one of us could survive. When I was 8, my chance finally came. Taking advantage of the old man getting drunk, I pushed him straight into the river. Watching him struggle and thrash in the water until he sank, I felt the mountain pressing down on me disappear completely. After his corpse floated back to the surface, I dragged it to the gate of the Yongyang Marquis's mansion and knelt there, selling myself to bury my father. Everyone who passed by praised my filial piety. No one suspected I had killed him. The Marquis of Yongyang was famous for his generosity, often distributing porridge to the poor in times of disaster, and his wife was known to be kind to servants. The world was harsh, with war and chaos outside. As an 8-year-old, I couldn't survive on my own. Selling myself into the Yongyang Marquis's mansion was a choice I had long considered. The carriage slowly came to a halt at the entrance of the Marquis's residence. As I helped the young lady alight, I saw 2 people standing by the gate. The second young lady, Song Jinxian, who had long held a grudge against Our Lady, and her wet nurse, Mammy Huang. You already eloped with that lewd bastard, so why come back? Song shunning. You're lewd and filthy, utterly unworthy of the air. You should be drowned in a pig cage. Song Jinxian glared at the young lady with hatred, curses pouring endlessly from her mouth. This second young lady, Song Jinxian, was the daughter of a concubine in the manor. The madam was kind-hearted and had never mistreated her, but Jinxian had always been proud and ambitious, determined to outshine Our Lady in everything. When the young lady studied the Qin, Jinxian learned the Zheng. When the young lady composed poems, Jinxian wrote lyrics. The young lady took after the madam in temperament and paid no heed to Jinxuan's petty maneuvers. The two had managed to maintain a superficial harmony until last year, when the engagement between the young lady and the heir of Prince Chen's manor utterly shattered their fragile peace. Song Jinxian had long harbored feelings for the heir of Prince Chen's manor and dreamed of marrying him, but the prince's manor insisted on a legitimate daughter as the bride, a fact that drove Jinxian half mad with rage. Actually, the young lady was also dissatisfied with this marriage because the Prince Chen's heir already had someone he loved. She couldn't bear to break them apart. But the command of parents and the words of the matchmaker, the young lady couldn't refuse. After the engagement was settled, Song Jinxian would taunt and mock her every time they met. I even suspect that this poor scholar surnamed Liu was a setup orchestrated by Song Jinxian, all to ruin the young lady's marriage with the Prince Chen's heir. The young lady ignored Song Jinxian and supported me as we walked inside. Unhappy with this, Song Jinxian directly blocked our path and shot a glance at the nanny Huang beside her. Nanny Huang nodded. She struck first, scolding me angrily. Wretched slave. You incited the eldest young lady to elope. Today I will beat you to death. With that, she raised her hand to slap me. The young lady stepped forward to shield me, and Nanny Huang's slap never landed. Nanny Huang glared at me viciously. Wretched slave, I dare not touch you. But the madam won't let you off either. Just wait for your death. As soon as she finished speaking, Dongmei, who was by the madam's side, hurried over. Granny Huang revealed a smug smile. Dongmei directly ordered people to forcefully take me away. The young lady cried and tried to stop them. Dongmei said coldly, Miss, the Marquis and Madam are very angry. Xuangjung failed in her duty to advise you and must be punished. Guards, take the young lady back to her courtyard. Two little maids came forward and dragged the young lady into the courtyard. The young lady struggled and refused, making the scene quite ugly. Song Jinxian saw the young lady in such a sorry state and couldn't help but smile. In the end, the young lady seemed resigned and cried out to Dongmei, Go and tell mother that I am willing to marry the prince of Chen's heir. I beg mother to spare Xuangjung's life. The cries gradually faded away. Song Jinxuan's face darkened completely. She turned and left, cursing continuously under her breath. Granny Huang carefully followed beside her, trying to persuade her. I was somewhat touched. The young lady had always disagreed with this marriage and had fought with the madam for a long time. Unexpectedly, she compromised to save me. My choice was indeed correct. After I sold myself into the Marquis's household, I was assigned to work in the kitchen. I dreamed of a better life and refused to settle for being just a maid. I knew that when noble families married off their daughters, they would send two personal maids along as potential concubines. So I set my sights on the young lady. With her kind heart, if I followed her into marriage and became the heir's chamber concubine, she wouldn't make things difficult for me. So I deliberately bumped into old Madame Huang when the young lady passed through the garden. Old Madame Huang had a bad temper and often beat and scolded the maids, so she slapped me hard across the face. I cried out for mercy, sounding utterly miserable, which finally won the young lady's sympathy, and she saved me. From then on, I became old Madame Huang's enemy. Dongmei led me directly to the lady's courtyard. Once inside the inner quarters, we didn't see the lady. Instead, two young maids took me to wash up and dress. Dongmei said nothing, and I didn't ask. I wasn't worried for my life. With the young lady's word, the worst I'd get was a bit of physical pain. But it would make the young lady feel guilty toward me, and later, when I became a chamber concubine, she would treat me especially well. This deal was well worth it. After getting ready, I looked at myself in the bronze mirror, hardly daring to believe it. Why had they dressed me up like a young lady? Dongmei nodded in satisfaction at my reflection, then directly pulled me into the front hall. Just as we reached the entrance, I could hear a heated argument coming from inside. The madam was already waiting for us there. Faced with my confusion, she spoke slowly. From now on, you are my daughter, Song Shunning. Before I could react, she led me to the side of the front hall and lifted the curtain to show me what was happening inside. Two people were confronting each other in the hall, one old, one young. The elder was the head of the home mansion, our master, the Marquis of Yongyang. The young man with stern eyebrows and bright eyes I also recognized. He was Xiao Ziyu, the heir of Prince Chen. Uncle Song, for the sake of the Song family's honor, it's best to call off today's engagement. Song Shunning has eloped with someone else. This matter hasn't spread yet, but if you don't break it off, then I cannot guarantee how much longer this news can be suppressed. Song Shunning is unfaithful and unworthy of being my wife, Xiao Ziyu. His every word cut deep. The Marquis trembled with rage, but had nothing to say. The madam whispered in my ear at that moment. Did you see that? I nodded. It had been no more than an hour from the young lady's elopement to her return home, yet Xiao Ziyu knew all about it clearly and even came to call off the engagement. Obviously, he had been prepared all along. The young lady fell into Xiao Ziyu's trap. That scholar surnamed Lu was arranged by Xiao Ziyu. If Xiao Ziyu truly didn't want to marry Xu Ning, he could have told our Song family openly and honestly. We Song family weren't insistent on this match. But he went so far as to ruin Xu Ning's reputation and force her to death. That's just too much. The madam clenched her teeth, and I agreed deeply. I couldn't imagine how miserable the kind young lady would be if she married Xiao Ziyu. I just didn't understand why Xiao Ziyu would do this. At this moment, Xiao Ziyu continued speaking smugly in the front hall, looking as if victory was in his grasp. Uncle Song, I know you've sent people to chase after Song Xu Ning, but even if you bring her back, so what? Such a deflowered woman cannot enter our Chun Prince Manor. If you insist on marrying Song Xu Ning into the Chun Prince Manor, then on our wedding day, I will write a letter of divorce. Of course, I'm not one to kick someone when they're down. I don't like Song Shunning, but I can't disobey my father's orders. This engagement can go on, but the terms need to be renegotiated. Song Shunning will volunteer to be a concubine. Once I marry Qingning, I'll take her in. Lu Qingning is the woman Xiao Ziyu loves. I had heard the young lady mention it, and I understood at once. So Xiao Ziyu schemed against the young lady to clear the way for his beloved to become the legitimate wife. But such methods were too despicable. The Marquis was so angry his face turned red. Marquis Xiao, are these words also the intent of Prince Chen and his consort? Xiao Ziyu said nonchalantly. That's none of your concern, Uncle Song. You'd better worry about Song Shunning instead. I wonder if the men you sent out will catch her in time. Maybe she'd rather die than come back. At that point, don't blame me if I won't even give her the position of a concubine, Xiao Ziyu added, a smug and contemptuous smile curling on his lips. Father, I called softly, lifting the curtain and walking out with a tray of tea. The Marquis and Xiao Ziyu both looked at me. The Marquis was stunned for a moment, then quickly understood. Why are you here? Are your day's tasks done? Xiao Ziyu looked at me hesitantly. This is the second young lady of the manor. The young lady keeps to herself and rarely goes out, and even when she does, she wears a veil, so few have seen her face. When the princess consort was inspecting the young lady, she kept her distance and thus hadn't truly seen her. Naturally, Xiao Ziyu hadn't seen her either, so he mistook me for the second young lady, Song Jinxian. I bowed slightly to Xiao Ziyu. Song Shunning greets the young lord. Xiao Ziyu's eyes widened.
Impossible.
The Marquis sneered. Does the young lord think I don't recognize my own daughter? She clearly eloped with someone. Before Xiao Ziyu could finish, I grabbed my teacup and smashed it heavily at his feet. Young lord, watch your words. If you dare to slander my honor again, I will risk my life to beat the drum of appeal and plead my case before the emperor. Intimidated by my fury, Xiao Ziyu opened his mouth but couldn't find words for a moment. After a pause, he turned coldly to the Marquis. Song Shunning eloped with someone. I have evidence, my lord. Does Marquis Yongyang really intend to call a stag a horse and fool me, the heir? I stepped forward, my momentum undiminished. If the heir has evidence, bring it out. Let us go before the emperor right now and settle this, so his majesty can decide. If I am an impostor, that would be the crime of deceiving the emperor. Death would be nothing. But if I am not an impostor, then the heir and Prince Chen must apologize to my Marquis Yongyang's mansion in front of the people of the realm. Xiao Ziyu's so-called evidence was nothing more than that scholar surnamed Lu, but that scholar is now buried in the wilderness. How could he prove it? Pressured by my momentum, Xiao Ziyu involuntarily stepped back. When he realized what he had done, his face turned pale and then red. He glared at me with indignation, as if he wanted to slice me into 1,000 pieces. I glared back at him, without yielding. After a long moment, he snorted coldly. Song Shunning, are you so desperate for a man? Do you think I like you because of this? You're not even 1/10,000th as good as Qingning. With that, Xiao Ziyu flicked his sleeves and left. Watching his retreating figure, I sneered inwardly. This man was less brave than even a woman like me. He didn't even dare to take a risk. The farce ended hastily. The Marquis and his wife also made it clear to me that I was to take the young lady's place and marry Xiao Ziyu. There were 2 reasons for this decision. First, I was utterly loyal, having risked my life to elope with the young lady, and I had served her for 2 years, knowing everything about her. Second, I had shown quick wit today, holding my own against Xiao Ziyu without backing down. The marriage contract between the 2 families had already been presented to the emperor, so it couldn't be easily annulled. Someone had to take the young lady's place. The young lady had fallen into Xiao Ziyu's trap. The Marquis and his wife feared that the scholar surnamed Lu would come forward and accuse her, tarnishing her reputation and bringing shame to the Marquis's household. That's why they wanted me to replace her. Even if that Lu fellow came forward later, they could claim that the scholar had eloped with a maid of the household, and that I, Song Shunning, was the true young lady of the Marquis's mansion. I didn't tell the Marquis and his wife that the Lu scholar would never be able to speak again. After all, this opportunity was rare. I wanted a better life, and since the young lady had been kind to me, Xiao Ziyu was no suitable match. If the young lady married him, she would surely be worn down and die. So it was better for me to marry him instead. The lady acted swiftly. That very night, she sent the young lady to Jiangnan, planning to recognize her as an adopted daughter and bring her back to the capital after a year or 2. As for the servants who knew about the young lady's elopement, they would all go with her to Jiangnan. Before leaving, the young lady was sobbing, her eyes brimming with tears. Having learned the whole story, she pulled me close with a sorrowful expression. Shuangjiang, I'm sorry for putting you in such a dangerous den. I also forced out a couple of tears. The young lady has treated me well. For you, I would die without regret. The young lady cried even harder, her eyes filled with boundless guilt. She pressed all her treasured jewelry into my arms. The Marquis and his wife heard my words and nodded approvingly. I knew that having me take the young lady's place in marriage wasn't just to cover up her elopement. More importantly, they had discovered Xiao Ziyu was not a good person. If the young lady married him, she would likely face grave danger. But they didn't want to give up the benefits of an alliance with Prince Chen. None of that mattered to me because I too wanted to rise above others and enjoy wealth and glory. So this was also a fair exchange. The date of my marriage to Xiao Ziyu was quickly set, and the madam sent Dongmei to serve by my side. Dongmei had attended me for years, and even knew some medical skills. With her by your side, you can evade some of those vicious tricks. In name, it was to serve me, but in reality, it was surveillance. Still, I was grateful. The Marquis's manor and I were in the same boat. As long as it didn't harm the manor, Dongmei would surely help me. On the wedding day, the entire capital was bustling with excitement. The madam, fearing that Song Jinxian would cause trouble, deliberately sent her to the estate to rest for a while. In the bridal chamber, red candles burned high, and the room was filled with joy. Dongmei and I waited for Xiao Ziyu to arrive. It was late into the night. After the guests had dispersed and the entire Qin prince's residence had fallen silent, there was still no sign of Xiao Ziyu. Dongmei's face darkened. The heir didn't come to the bridal chamber on his wedding night. Isn't he afraid of becoming a laughingstock? And the Qin prince and princess are so permissive as well. I chuckled. If the prince of Qin and his consort hadn't indulged Xiao Ziyu, how could they have kept Lu Qingning in the prince's mansion, and how could they have chosen the young lady as the heir's bride? Lu Qingning was a courtesan redeemed from the brothel by Xiao Ziyu. Though he tried to cover it up, many people still knew. For this, the prince of Qin broke 2 sticks, beating Xiao Ziyu black and blue. But Xiao Ziyu insisted on marrying Lu Qingning, even saying he would sever ties with his father if it came to that. The consort, unable to bear seeing her son suffer, eventually allowed Lu Qingning to stay, but demanded that Xiao Ziyu marry the heir's bride first. The madam and the young lady were well known in the capital for their proper and kind temperaments. Making the young lady the heir's bride was simply taking advantage of her gentle nature, thinking she would tolerate Lu Qingning. Dongmei, still furious, was about to say something more when a hurried footstep interrupted her. It was Xiao Ziyu, dressed in bright red wedding robes. His expression was dark and inscrutable, full of reluctance. Song Shunning, I'll give you the title of heir's bride, but don't expect anything more. The only one I love is Qingning. I will take Qingning as my concubine in 2 days. From now on, you must not trouble Qingning in the mansion, and you must avoid her path when you see her. This is simply bullying. Dongmei was furious to death, but I didn't care at all. Instead, I had a faint smile. Other than the position of the heir's wife, I don't want anything else. Xiao Ziyu frowned at this and was just about to speak again when a soft, weak voice rang out. Brother Ziyu, speak gently with the princess. Please don't argue with her because of me. I'm not worth it. I looked up. I saw an old matron supporting a sickly beauty walking over. The beauty's eyes were brimming with tears, and her face was full of delicate softness. I didn't need to be told. This was the Lu Qingning that Xiao Ziyu liked. Xiao Ziyu stepped forward with a pained expression and carefully sheltered Lu Qingning in his arms. Why have you come? Your health is delicate. You must not catch a chill. Lu Qingning lowered her head timidly. She spoke in a soft, weak voice. I was worried about you and the princess. I am of humble status, not worthy of Brother Ziyu arguing with the princess over me. As she spoke, Lu Qingning began to wipe her tears. As the beauty shed tears, Xiao Ziyu's heart ached even more. What nonsense are you talking? In my eyes, you are the best. Don't belittle yourself like this. Song Shunning is scheming and full of calculations. She can't compare to you at all. Lu Qingning sobbed softly. I thought that after Brother Ziyu married, you would forget about me. Xiao Ziyu quickly coaxed her. How could that be? My heart only has you. Hearing this, Lu Qingning turned her head slightly to look at me, a mocking smile curling at the corners of her lips, contempt in her eyes. Clearly, she was putting on a show for me, asserting her dominance, all to provoke me. Dongmei's face turned green with anger, but I watched intently. Truly, a fine play. Lu Qingning tugged at Xiao Ziyu's sleeve, putting on a face of grievance, mixed with forced strength. Today is Brother Ziyu's wedding night. You don't need to worry about me. Go ahead and consummate the marriage with the princess. Xiao Ziyu shook his head. What nonsense are you talking? How could I consummate the marriage with her? Tonight, I will definitely stay with you. As he spoke, Xiao Ziyu turned back and glared at me. Song Shunning, from now on I won't come to your room. You'd better behave yourself and not cause any trouble. After saying that, Xiao Ziyu put his arm around Lu Qingning and walked out. Lu Qingning turned back to look at me, giving me a smug smile. Dongmei was trembling with rage. I watched calmly, waiting for the two to leave. Only then did I notice there was someone else in the courtyard. It was the old nanny who had helped Lu Qingning in earlier. The old nanny had triangular eyes and a hooked nose, giving her a rather formidable look. She walked slowly up to me. I am old Nanny Cui, the personal maidservant of Miss Qingning. She spoke with an air of superiority, her expression utterly disdainful of me.
You smiled ahead.
Any advice? Old Nanny Cui gave a cold snort. On behalf of Miss Qingning, this old servant advises the princess consort. From now on, when you see our young lady in the Qin prince's mansion, keep your distance. With the young master's favor, even the princess consort of the Qin prince's mansion wouldn't dare offend our young lady. I don't mind telling you, it was our young lady who had the young master arrange that scholar surnamed Lu before. It was this old servant who arranged everything. You were lucky that the Lu fellow previously hooked up with the wrong person, letting you narrowly escape that disaster. But if there's no Lu, there will be others. This old servant can't guarantee that some other man won't wake up in your ladyship's bed in the future, and that wouldn't be a pretty sight. Matron Cui gave me a cold smile, her tone smug and laced with threats. Seeing me silent, she thought I was scared stiff, and only then turned and left with satisfaction. At the door, she turned back and spat at me. Worthless, she muttered, contemptuous and arrogant. I stood up and patted Dongmei, who was nearly furious. Time to work. Let's collect a bit of interest on our wedding night. I led Dongmei around the guards, following behind Matron Cui. Dongmei was confused and whispered, Princess consort, why are you tailing that old hag? I didn't answer, my eyes fixed on Matron Shui ahead. Finally, when she left the patrol guard's line of sight, I quickened my pace and drew my dagger. I circled behind Matron Shui, one hand covering her mouth, the other plunging the dagger into her body with force. I leaned close to Mama Chui's ear and whispered, I'd appreciate your guidance, Mama Chui. I'm not one to ignore courtesy, so I'll see you off properly. Mama Chui twisted in terror, trying to break free from my grip and scream for help. I stabbed her again and again until she went limp and collapsed to the ground. Her eyes wide, she stared at me in disbelief even in death. I took out a handkerchief and wiped the blood off my hands. Behind me was Dongmei, petrified with fear. She looked at me with terror. She had no enmity with us, no grudges. You, how could you kill her?
No enmity?
Lu Qingning framed the young miss, and this Mama Chui was her accomplice. Ruining someone's reputation is no different from murder. Besides, her threats today were already very clear. She was even planning to plant a man in my bed to frame me. That shows how vicious she was. I don't like being threatened. Lu Qingning could be dealt with slowly, but Aunt Chui, as the pawn, could be eliminated right now. I'm not the type to wait until someone tries to harm me before striking. I believe in striking first. Dongmei and I groped our way back to the courtyard in the dark. Her face was pale, and she trembled all over. What if we get caught? She asked. I chuckled softly. Everyone in the mansion is suspicious, but we are the least suspicious of all. We only arrived at the Prince Chen's mansion today, and we have no enmity with that old hag. No one would ever suspect us. That's why I acted in such a hurry. As for bringing Dongmei along, it was also to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. Even though Dongmei was sent by the madam, I wanted her to fear me as well. Fear is necessary in all matters. After I calmed her down, Dongmei steadied herself, and the night passed without further incident. The next day, the entire Prince Chen's mansion was in an uproar, but the news was quickly suppressed. Clearly, this matter couldn't be allowed to blow up. After all, Xiao Ziyu had just gotten married yesterday, and a servant being killed that very night would only bring shame to the Prince Chen's mansion's reputation. The investigation into this matter was all kept private. Sure enough, no one suspected me and Dongmei. The princess even took time to come and comfort me, since Xiao Ziyu hadn't stayed in my room last night. Dongmei took advantage of no one paying attention to go out and gather information. When she came back, she told me Lu Qingning was crying her heart out. Xiao Ziyu comforted her again, and on the spot swore an oath that he would make her his secondary consort. Only then did Lu Qingning stop crying and break into a smile. Dongmei said indignantly, You don't know, right now the heir is kneeling with Lu Qingning at the entrance of the princess's courtyard. He says if the princess doesn't agree, he won't get up. But the princess hasn't relented. You don't need to worry too much. For a new bride to have the heir take a secondary consort right after entering the household would damage the prince's mansion's reputation. As long as you don't make a fuss, this matter won't go through. Dongmei tried to console me, but I shook my head. Go to the princess's courtyard and say that I am willing to allow Lu Qingning to enter as a secondary consort, but I want to make one request. Dongmei looked surprised, but after what had happened last night, she didn't dare casually contradict me. I sneered inwardly. Lu Qingning wanting to become a secondary consort wasn't absolutely out of the question, but one must learn to share. So I had only one demand. If Xiao Ziyu wanted to marry Lu Qingning as a secondary consort, he would have to simultaneously marry my distant cousin as a secondary consort. Of course, that cousin was a born seductress, a courtesan that I had the Marquis procure for me before my marriage. I was curious to see who would come out on top, Lu Qingning, this scheming green tea bitch, or that enchantress born with a seductive bone. With me handling the entry of both secondary consorts, the prince's mansion would not have to bear gossip about taking concubines right after the bride's arrival. Naturally, the princess consort and the prince would have no objections. This was also their original plan, to marry a docile and obedient heir's wife. Xiao Ziyu was set on marrying Lu Qingning, so he naturally had no objections. The wedding date was set for 1 month later. During that month, Xiao Ziyu never once came to my courtyard. He just clung to Lu Qingning in her room. I didn't mind at all. In fact, I was glad for the ease. But for the sake of my future plans, I still went to the princess consort to put on a tearful complaint. The princess consort still feared the Yongyang Marquis' household, so she gave a strict order for Xiao Ziyu to come to my room for 2 nights. Xiao Ziyu was naturally displeased. He came to my room to curse at me. Song shunning, you've learned to complain to my mother. Are you that desperate for a man? Do you think I'd touch you? Dream on. I chuckled. Why are men always so arrogant? As if I'd be willing to let you touch me. You sleep in your area, and I'll sleep in mine. You don't have to touch me. We just need to tell outsiders that we've consummated the marriage. For the sake of both families' reputations, you don't want the Prince Chen's mansion to be criticized by outsiders, do you? Upon hearing this, Xiao Ziyu was somewhat satisfied. Song shunning, don't think that saying this will earn you any kindness from me. A scheming woman like you doesn't deserve my love for the rest of your life. I did not argue or respond sharply. He looked aggrieved and stayed in my courtyard for 2 nights, and we told outsiders that the marriage had been consummated. I pricked my finger to make a blood-stained bridal cloth and had the nanny deliver it to the princess's quarters. The heir of Prince Chen remarried, causing another stir in the capital. The new consort took the initiative to manage everything, thus preserving the reputation of Prince Chen's mansion. As expected on the wedding night, Xiao Ziyu stayed in Lu Qingning's courtyard. The other bride, Song Qingqing, came to my courtyard. Song Qingqing was indeed beautiful. Her speech, movements, and posture seemed practiced countless times, and every gesture carried a hint of seduction. With just one glance, I knew Lu Qingning stood no chance against Song Qingqing. On the 2nd day after the wedding, the concubines were to serve tea to me, the principal wife. When Xiao Ziyu accompanied Lu Qingning over, he was captivated by Song Qingqing at first sight. Song Qingqing moved gracefully, like a delicate willow in the wind. She approached Xiao Ziyu and bowed, saying, "Your concubine, Song, greets the young master." Her voice was like a babbling brook, flowing through one's heart. Xiao Ziyu lost his composure on the spot. It took him a moment to come to his senses. "No need for formalities," he stammered. Song Qingqing rose. She gave Xiao Ziyu a brilliant smile, which once again left him dazed. Lu Qingning glared resentfully at Song Qingqing, then at me. She wasn't stupid. Naturally, she knew that Song Qingqing had been specially arranged by me. I smiled and watched. That night, Xiao Ziyu took the initiative to go to Song Qingqing's room, but less than half an hour after he entered, a little maid rushed in to report that Lu Qingning had fainted. Xiao Ziyu hurriedly went to Lu Qingning's courtyard and stayed there all night. Early the next morning, Lu Qingning, supported by her maid and looking radiant, came to my courtyard. She looked at me with a triumphant smile. "These tricks of yours, princess consort, won't work on me. Brother Ziyu only likes me. Even if concubine Song is pretty, without schemes she can only lose. You're too green to compete with me. I will make you wish you were dead, but unable to die." I did not refute her.
Il est live.
People like Lu Qingning are too pitiful. They entrust everything to a man's favor, but how can a man be reliable? She managed to lure Xiao Ziyu away from Song Qingqing's room last night with her tricks, but what about tonight? Tomorrow night? And besides, I had prepared more than just Song Qingqing. That very day, I had Dongmei buy the pre-prepared maids from outside and bring them into the mansion. These maids were beautiful, each with their own unique charm. I sent 2 to serve in Lu Qingning's courtyard, 2 to serve in the princess's courtyard, and a few to serve in Xiao Ziyu's study. The intention was obvious. It was convenient for Xiao Ziyu. I wanted to see if he could remain faithful to his love for Lu Qingning when faced with so many beauties. Talking about loyalty to a man is as ridiculous as saying a pig can climb a tree. Lu Qingning was so angry she smashed all the porcelain in the room. The princess consort came to see me that very day. "Shunning, Ziyu is also your husband. If word spreads that he is overly fond of women, it will not be good for you either." I then put on a pitiful face. "Please forgive me, mother. These days everyone in the capital says that my husband favors his concubine over his wife, which harms his reputation. I thought bringing my cousins into the residence might distract him. But who would have thought?" At this point, I squeezed out 2 tears. Under these circumstances, it's better to bring more women into the residence. If 1 or 2 are lucky enough to win my husband's favor, and he stops doting exclusively on that courtesan, we might salvage some of his reputation. After all, a young and flirtatious prince sounds better than one who favors his concubine over his wife. I believe you, mother, would not want to see Xiao Ziyu dote on a courtesan either. But Xiao Ziyu was too stubborn to listen to advice, and there was nothing she could do about it. Although my current solution wasn't ideal, it could at least address the immediate crisis. As expected, my words brought a hint of joy to the princess consort's face. She held my hand and said, "Shunning, you've suffered. It's kind of you to think of, Ziyu. Having a wife like you is his blessing. It's perfectly reasonable for me to buy maidservants to attend to him." With the princess consort backing me, Xiao Ziyu couldn't say anything. I promised these maidservants that if any of them managed to seduce the young master into bed, I would grant them the status of concubine. So the maidservants were all eager to try, especially the two in Lu Qingning's room, who were constantly trying to seduce him. Whenever Lu Qingning managed to get rid of them, I immediately replaced them. As the wife of the heir, I could bestow 2 maidservants upon a concubine, so even Xiao Ziyu couldn't object. Xiao Ziyu was annoyed beyond measure in Lu Qingning's courtyard. In the princess consort's courtyard, there were also maidservants flattering and currying favor, and even in the study, maidservants were actively trying to please him. In the end, he had no choice but to go to Song Qingqing's courtyard. After all, I hadn't arranged any maids in her courtyard, so it was very quiet. Song Qingqing's skills in serving a man were far superior to Lu Qingning's. After just one time, Xiao Ziyu was so delighted he couldn't bear to leave, spending 15 consecutive days in Song Qingqing's room. This nearly drove Lu Qingning to despair. The princess consort was very pleased and even sent someone to reward me with some jewelry and fabric. With Xiao Ziyu no longer hanging around me, and Lu Qingning exhausted from vying for favor with Song Qingqing, plus the occasional rewards from the princess consort, I became the most carefree person in Prince Chen's mansion. I waited until 2 months later, when my period was late. I knew it was time to act. It was Song Qingqing who suggested the outing to Qingyan Mountain. Since she was in favor at the moment, Xiao Ziyu naturally wouldn't refuse her. Lu Qingning insisted on coming along, and I was dragged along by Song Qingqing. The whole group set out in a grand procession, leaving the city for Qingyan Mountain. All along the way, Lu Qingning and Song Qingqing were at each other's throats, while Xiao Ziyu was caught in the middle, suffering and enjoying it at the same time. Going up the mountain to pay respects to Buddha, admiring flowers and reciting poems, it was all quite pleasant. Xiao Ziyu kept his distance from me, staying far away with Lu Qingning and Song Qingqing as if I carried something filthy. I didn't mind, taking Dongmei to drink tea and enjoy the flowers. As the sun set behind the western mountains, Xiao Ziyu returned contentedly with Lu Qingning and Song Qingqing. His face wore a look of satisfaction. Lu Qingning's expression was displeased, while Song Qingqing smiled faintly. Clearly, this round of confrontation had gone to Song Qingqing again. On the way back, a wheel of the carriage suddenly cracked, startling Lu Qingning. Xiao Ziyu hurried to comfort her. The journey was delayed, and Xiao Ziyu flew into a rage. When we return, have all the stable servants beaten to death. The crowd began fixing the carriage in fear. Night fell. Suddenly, the birds in the forest took flight in a collective panic. The horses pulling the carriage snorted white mist, clearly growing agitated. The guards became alert, encircling us protectively. Whoosh! An arrow cut through the air, piercing straight into the horse's rump. The horse, startled, neighed and bolted forward. Lu Qingning and Xiao Ziyu in the carriage were dragged out of the guard's circle as a group of men in black emerged from the woods like ghosts. The guards split into 2 organized teams. One team stayed to protect Song Qingqing's carriage and mine, drawing their blades to confront the men in black. The other team rushed after Lu Qingning and Xiao Ziyu to protect them. In the carriage, Xiao Ziyu lifted the curtain and shouted, "Help! Save me! Abandon Song Shunning! Everyone come protect me and Qingning! All of you!" His panicked cries echoed through the valley. At the most critical moment, Xiao Ziyu's selfishness was fully exposed. Unexpectedly, upon hearing his shouts, the men in black all turned and chased after them. Xiao Ziyu is in that carriage. Chase him. Seeing the men in black do this, Xiao Ziyu turned pale with regret. I knew it was time for my performance. I pulled off my hairpin, lifted the curtain, and in a disheveled, frantic state, wept and cried out to the guards stationed outside the carriage. "Quickly save the young master. Everyone go, don't mind me." She played the role of a deeply devoted wife in a wealthy household to perfection. The leading guard thought for a moment, left a few men to protect us, and then led the others in pursuit. Watching the guards and the black-clad figures recede into the distance, a smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Success or failure hinges on this one move. Song Qingqing slowly walked to my side. Dongmei cast a discreet glance at her. Song Qingqing looked at me nervously and said, "In 3 days, I will voluntarily die alongside the young master." I shook my head slightly. No need. Today's outing was your suggestion. If you die, it will easily arouse suspicion. Hearing me say this, Song Qingqing breathed a sigh of relief. Song Qingqing's indenture contract was in the Marquis's hands, and her family was also under his control. She dared not betray him. Dongmei asked in a low voice, "If both Lu Qingning and the young master die here, will we be suspected when we return?" I let out a light laugh. Who says Lu Qingning will die? Xiaozi will die, but Lu Qingning will not. Both disappear at the same time. Xiaozi dies, yet Lu Qingning remains alive and well. By then, the Prince of Chun and his consort would definitely vent their anger on her. She was the key link to attract the fire and also the most important link to dispel suspicion from me. After all, I was the only one who had a conflict with Lu Qingning. My deep love for the heir apparent was well known, so the heir's death could never be blamed on me. An hour later, reinforcements arrived. Song Qingqing and I were taken back to the Prince of Chen's mansion. 2 hours later, Lu Qingning returned unharmed, and with her came Xiao Ziyu's corpse. The Prince of Chen was furious, and the princess fainted. I wailed loudly to the heavens. The Prince of Chen led a team to search for the black-clad men. In the valley, all the black-clad men were found dead on the spot. When their face masks were lifted, they were all disfigured corpses with no clues. Naturally, I was aware of these circumstances. These men were arranged by the Marquis. Although the Marquis was kind-hearted, he was not someone who would take an insult without retaliation. Moreover, killing Xiao Ziyu was not just for revenge. There were other purposes. The princess was furious, beating and kicking Lu Qingning. In the chaos, I cried myself unconscious in front of Xiao Ziyu's morning hall. Dongmei summoned a physician to take my pulse, and it was discovered that I was 2 months pregnant. Counting back, it was the night of the consummation. The princess and Prince Chun were overjoyed. They had the physician take good care of me to ensure a healthy pregnancy. That very night, they had Lu Qingning beaten to death. When Lu Qingning was dying, I went to see her. Her face was full of resentment, and her eyes glared at me with venom. How could you possibly have a child? How could you be pregnant? The young master never consummated with you. You liar! You've deceived everyone. I should have killed you long ago, you bitch. Everyone else just thought she was rambling deliriously before death. After all, everyone knew that the young master and I had slept together for 2 nights, and even the princess had seen the bridal cloth. I chuckled softly, leaned close to her ear, and whispered, "You're right. This child isn't Xiao Ziyu's. I killed Granny Cui, and I killed Xiao Ziyu. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm not actually Song Shunning. I'm just a maidservant to the young lady." Lu Qingning's eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at me. "Bitch, I'll have it out with you." She struggled to lunge at me, but a guard struck her on the back with a club, and she fell to the ground unmoving. "How dare you?" Blow after blow rained down on her until she breathed her last. I'm not lying. The child isn't Xiao Ziyu's. Since Xiao Ziyu wouldn't consummate the marriage, there were plenty willing. Men are a dime a dozen, and handsome ones aren't hard to find. All I needed was a child. With Xiao Ziyu dead, this child in my belly is the last bloodline of the Qin manor. My position is secure. As for whether in 7 months this child will be a son, I don't have to worry about that. The Marquis will see to it that a son is provided for me. As for whether the Marquis has considered killing the mother to keep the child, I'm sure he has. But now he wouldn't dare. My ruthlessness gives him pause. He won't risk it. It's not worth the loss. And I don't ask for much. I just want to enjoy a lifetime of wealth and splendor in peace. The end.